Oh, what is this? A divorce notice? And this is a marriage registration form. While cleaning the car, I discovered something puzzling. Inside the envelope were divorce and marriage forms. The old lady is so sloppy, I can't see her as a woman anymore. Oh, that's terrible. I was doubtful that my husband was cheating, but to gather evidence, I installed a surveillance camera which captured Kevin's betrayal in full. Later, pretending to be on a business trip, Kevin went on a trip with his lover. And I decided to bring him down to hell. After seeing Kevin off, I started preparing for my revenge. I contacted someone and invited them over to discuss Kevin's betrayal. That person promised to give Kevin a harsh punishment. Hearing those words, I felt a fire in my chest. I had been fighting alone ever since Kevin betrayed me, but I still had allies. Thinking about it made me feel stronger. My name is Emma Smith. I'm just an ordinary office worker, but my husband, Kevin, works for a well-known large corporation. His father is the company president, and the expectations for Kevin from those around him are high. And he is smoothly climbing the career ladder. Kevin himself is confident that he will eventually succeed in the company. And since being given an executive position, he has been even more devoted to his work. I met Kevin when I happened to come across his parents in distress. I helped his mother, who had collapsed on the roadside due to a medical episode. And they were grateful, considering me a lifesaver. They introduced me to their son, and we eventually got married. Kevin, coming from a wealthy family, was prideful and arrogant, but initially, I didn't mind it much, considering it manly. Our marriage, initiated by his father's introduction, seemed to be going well. However, after some time, Kevin's attitude changed drastically. The feeling of being glad to be married to him lasted only a few years. As the years went by, Kevin started getting important assignments at work. And he began coming home later. With that, our conversations dwindled. And the chances of going out together on his days off decreased because he was too tired. I wanted children, but he dismissed the idea, saying it was too bothersome. Things were good when we were newlyweds. Kevin has changed a lot. As our relationship grew colder, I felt increasingly sad. Despite the cold marital relationship, I had a good relationship with my in-laws. Despite being a business owner, the father-in-law was not at all overbearing. And the mother-in-law, although frail, was gentle and kind. Kevin, being their only child, was probably spoiled by them. Kevin brags about his abilities at work, but he is hopeless in other aspects. He can't even think of doing household chores when he comes home. He just throws his clothes everywhere and immediately sprawls on the couch. At first, I thought I needed to support him, but as years passed, it only became a source of sighs. Yet, he often harshly criticized me. "Hey, food. I'm hungry, hurry up." Upon returning home, Kevin, seemingly in a bad mood, shouted at me. "I just got back from work myself. Wait a bit longer." Kevin, seriously? You really are a nag. Don't face me, it's irritating. What's that supposed to mean? You were home before me. You could have at least thought about preparing dinner. Although I said this, I knew Kevin was incapable of preparing a meal. He had never stood in the kitchen from the time we were dating until now. Shut up, I earn more than you do. Don't compare yourself working at a small company to me. Indeed, Kevin earned more. But that shouldn't mean he could lack compassion. Yet, Kevin used his income as a shield, never bending his will. Seriously. If I knew you were such a cheeky woman, I wouldn't have married you. Make sure you serve me well, so I don't dump you. Kevin smirked and hurled insults as he watched for my reaction. Ignoring his words, I headed to the kitchen. there were hardly any insults when we were newlyweds. How did Kevin change so much? I started preparing dinner silently, but the words he had just said stuck in my mind like thorns, making me feel uncomfortable. Over time, Kevin began to openly show hostility towards me. I wanted to correct my flaws if I had any, but Kevin's comments were always unreasonable, leaving no room for improvement. I didn't know the reason, but I was troubled by my husband's changed attitude. One day, when I tried to go to work, I noticed that my car wouldn't start, perhaps the battery was dead. I immediately called the mechanic to have it checked, but it seemed the repairs would take some time. "Hey, can I borrow your car until mine is fixed? I can't get to work otherwise." Huh? Why should I? Kevin uses the train for his commute, so he only drives his car on weekends. Initially reluctant, he eventually agreed to lend me his car. So I started using it for my commutes until my own car was repaired. It's quite a mess in here, really sloppy. Kevin's car was, as expected, a mess. Seeing the chaos inside, I couldn't help but sigh. Being fairly tidy myself, I was reluctant to drive it in that condition, so I started cleaning it up. I briskly put half-finished water bottles and crumpled pieces of paper into a trash bag. The trash bin was overflowing, and the ashtray was stuffed with numerous cigarette butts. Oh, what's this? While cleaning under the passenger seat, I found something shiny. It was one half of a pair of women's earrings, and it definitely wasn't mine. I wondered who could have left it, perhaps a friend or a colleague of Kevin's. I decided to put the earring in my pocket to give to Kevin later. Well, I guess that's about it. Having finished picking up a 12-gallon bag full of trash, I stretched my back. I wonder if he's not embarrassed by such messiness. But it seems Kevin's behavior is hard to change. Right, I haven't checked there yet. I then opened the dashboard that I hadn't checked yet. There had been a time when I left important documents there before. I thought it best to check now, in case something outrageous would appear again. Inside, something caught my eye. There was an A4-sized brown envelope left behind. Perhaps it was work-related documents. It was a good thing I checked. Thinking it might be something important, I picked up the envelope and looked inside. However, what I found was unexpected. Oh. What is this? A divorce notice? And this, a marriage registration form. Thinking this could be some kind of evidence, I decided to take a photo with my smartphone before putting it back. The earring I found earlier might belong to Kevin's mistress. Such a worry crossed my mind. Kevin's affairs with women continued to haunt him. Late one night when he came home, his clothes smelled of perfume, and once there was lipstick on his collar. However, the evidence I currently had was too weak to confront Kevin about his infidelity. Unable to follow Kevin around all the time due to work, I resolved to hire a detective agency. When I finally received the report from the detective agency, I was shocked. Just as I feared, Kevin was indeed having an affair. The other woman was a receptionist at his company named Tracy. The report detailed how they met several times a week. Kevin told me he was working late, but in reality, he left work at 6 p.m. and went straight to Tracy's apartment. It seems their relationship had been going on for quite some time. Kevin had been noticeably colder towards me for a few years. Surely, their relationship had started around that time. Then another shocking truth came to light. Kevin had been bringing Tracy home when I was not around. I immediately decided to install surveillance cameras at home and capture everything. I made up a reason to leave the house, and Kevin foolishly fell for it. Later, when I checked the surveillance camera footage, I saw the disgraceful figures of the two. The location was our bedroom. Shamelessly, Kevin had let Tracy into our bedroom and they had acted there. Hey, are you sure your wife won't come back? I really hate it if we run into each other. She said she's out today, so no one will be at home, totally safe. We won't get caught. The camera not only captured their actions but also recorded their conversation clearly. They seemed drunk on the thrill of their affair, laughing boisterously. Their foolishness was astounding. It's so thrilling. Bringing your mistress into the house while your wife is away, and this is the bedroom, right? The thrill makes it more exciting. Kevin, you're really a bad man. Tracy smirked maliciously, pleased to know she had an edge over his wife. For Tracy, I'd divorce that old lady anytime. I've been fed up since we got married. Tracy is definitely better. Kevin's words were indeed a shock. Although our marital relationship had grown cold over the years, we initially trusted each other. Maybe there was something wrong with me. I was about to think so, but Kevin's next words made me rethink. Tracy is many times better. The old lady is sloppy, her skin lacks firmness. I can't see her as a woman anymore. Oh, that's terrible. I would cry if someone said that to me. The two laughed mockingly at my appearance. I was dumbfounded by their vulgar remarks. Aging is a natural process. Kevin is plenty old enough to be considered a middle-aged man by society's standards. Anger began to bubble within me at his unbelievable betrayal. I could not let this go unnoticed. I will never forgive him. I'll make sure he sees hell. Several days had passed since I checked the surveillance footage. See ya. I don't know when I'll be back. With his usual indifferent attitude, Kevin left the house. He said he was going on a business trip for 3 nights. But I knew it was a lie, he was actually going on a trip with Tracy. Even though they had been meeting secretly, they were quite active. While inwardly mocking him, I smiled and saw him off. Have fun. When you come back, you'll see hell. The house was silent after Kevin left. I began preparing for my revenge. Hey. You. What the hell is this? 4 days later, my phone rang, and an infuriated Kevin yelled at me on the call. What's got you so angry? It's your doing, isn't it? Where did you take my car? And why is there nothing left at home? Kevin was panicking as he interrogated me. It was funny to see him, who always looked down on others, in such a frenzy. I got rid of everything. That car, being a luxury vehicle, sold for a good price. Oh, and I put that apartment up for sale, so you better move out quickly. The apartment and the car aren't in your name. You can't just do whatever you want with them. Kevin was infuriated, seemingly unable to comprehend my actions. Well, maybe I'll tell you later. But how was your trip? Did you enjoy it? It's good that you got to indulge one last time before you face a tough life ahead. Huh? I don't understand. Do you realize what will happen to you for doing this to me? How long are you planning to delude yourself into thinking you're in a superior position? I don't mind being apart from you at all. I once trusted Kevin and loved him. But that's all in the past now, and all that remains is the hatred for his betrayal. Don't get cocky, a woman like you will only live in loneliness if you leave me. Oh, you're quite confident about yourself, aren't you? But I wonder about that. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief at Kevin. Who would never admit he was wrong, even if it was his fault? He's the type to act tough towards those he considers beneath him. Unfortunately, you and I are strangers now. We are already divorced. What? Kevin exclaimed in a ridiculous voice. He must have been shocked by the unexpected response. But it was no bluff or lie. A few days ago, Kevin and I were no longer husband and wife. I submitted the divorce papers I found in your car. It was good that they were already processed, so I could submit them right away. That was just a joke. Why would you submit it without permission? Well, now you can marry your beloved Tracy, right? That's great for you. Of course, I've also submitted the marriage registration for the two of you. Both forms had already been submitted. This meant that the divorce with Kevin was finalized, and his marriage to Tracy was complete. What? I don't understand what you're talking about. Kevin played dumb when Tracy's name came up. He must still think his affair hasn't been discovered. You don't need to hide it anymore. I hired a detective and saw all the cozy moments between you two. Kevin must have never dreamed he was being followed by a detective, as he was speechless from shock. Let's meet and talk once. We get too emotional over the phone. Huh? That's impossible. I'm not in the US anymore. What? That's such an obvious lie. It won't work. Oh, it's true. Since you treated me like a nuisance, I decided to disappear from your life. You should be grateful. Finding those forms was indeed a shock, but now I see it as a stroke of luck. If I had only found out about the affair without those forms, I would have had to engage in lengthy discussions with Kevin to get a divorce. Kevin claimed that those forms were kind of a joke. He probably never intended to submit them. Maybe Tracy pressured him to prepare them, but it worked out in my favor. You're just saying nonsense to get my attention, right? You can't really be overseas, that's a lie, right? Kevin, who initially came off strong, was significantly subdued. From his reaction, it seemed he never really intended to marry Tracy. But that didn't make me feel any more forgiving. I'm telling you it's not a lie. Let me show you some evidence. I snapped a photo with my smartphone camera and immediately sent it to Kevin. So? Do you still not believe me? The photo showed a foreign streetscape with clearly non-American people walking around. It's certainly not a trip. As proof, there's not a single piece of my luggage left in that apartment. I have no intention of returning to the US where you are. I don't even want to see your face. Although I had lived as a typical housewife, I had majored in foreign languages in college. Since childhood, I had a strong desire to live abroad, and ironically, the divorce from Kevin became the opportunity to fulfill that dream. Of course, I couldn't have moved overseas by myself. But I had powerful allies. I've always dreamed of moving abroad. Thanks to you, I got a good opportunity. Thank you. Where did you get the money? Your parents supported my dream and helped me financially. I can't thank them enough. Kevin was baffled. He couldn't believe that his parents would assist his wife in escaping. My parents. Why would they? As compensation for the trouble you caused. Did you think your affair was only known to me? Your parents know everything too. Go ahead and ask them.
Bye.
Oh, hey, Emma. Wait. We're not talking about it yet. Ignoring Kevin's panicked calls to wait and talk more, I hung up the phone. Confronting Kevin alone about the affair would have probably led him to deny everything. To create a situation where he couldn't escape, I decided to rally support. On the day Kevin pretended to be on a business trip, I invited my in-laws over. I'm sorry for calling you over so suddenly. I really needed to discuss something important. Seeing my urgent expression, my in-laws sensed something and nodded solemnly. Talking about a suspicion of infidelity is usually difficult to discuss with a spouse's parents. But having known the character of my in-laws over the years, I believed they would trust my side of the story. I showed them all the evidence of Kevin's infidelity I had collected. Initially, they couldn't believe it, but their faces turned pale as they looked through the evidence. I'm sorry, I can't believe Kevin would do such foolish things. It's my fault for spoiling him too much. The father-in-law's expression was stunned, and the mother-in-law covered her face and wept. They repeatedly apologized to me. It turns out that my in-laws had struggled with infertility for a long time, resorting to fertility treatments. Kevin was their long-awaited child, whom they doted on excessively. Thanks to his father, a business owner, Kevin could have almost anything he desired, which seems to have nurtured his high pride and arrogance. As a child, he constantly quarreled with his classmates, but as he grew older, he appeared to have learned how to interact with people, at least on the surface. After graduating from university, he joined his father's company and quickly established his own position by delivering results. Initially, probably because of his parents-in-law, Kevin must have been pretending to be someone he was not. However, once he realized I would not fight back, his true nature began to show. Now, he treats me harshly as if venting his stress, and has even gone so far as to have affairs as he pleases. This is not behavior befitting someone nearly 50. I am utterly fed up with him. Perhaps I spoiled him too much. I'm sorry, Emma, for making you suffer all this. My parents-in-law apologized to me, looking very disheartened. Moreover, Emma, I have kept this hidden from you, but in addition to his affairs, Kevin might also be involved in a crime. A crime? What do you mean? While making a face as if he had swallowed a bitter bug, the father-in-law disclosed Kevin's sins. I promised to let him face severe punishment. So, please rest assured. Father. Thank you. I nodded at the father-in-law's words. I was filled with gratitude towards the two of them for standing by me instead of shielding their son. This foolish son. He's really done it now. Abandoned by me, with no home or car, Kevin showed up at the company in a daze, only to be summoned straight to the president's office. There, an infuriated father-in-law was waiting for him. What's going on? Why are you so angry? Look at this. He laid out a series of items in front of Kevin. They were the photos of his infidelity that I had handed over. I've heard all about your misconduct from Emma. It's utterly shameful. Doesn't a grown man like you feel embarrassed? Dad, it's not like that. Listen to me. Kevin started making excuses, sensing this was bad. You might not know this, Dad, but Emma is really terrible. She always mocks me and nags. So, I had no choice but to seek comfort elsewhere. You are truly the worst, as a person. Do you think such excuses will work? The father-in-law completely dismissed Kevin's excuses, knowing they were blatant lies. Why? Who are you going to believe, your son or Emma, a stranger? Of course, I choose Emma. Why don't you trust me? Reflect on your own actions. Huh? What are you talking about? The father-in-law questioned Kevin in a probing tone. Kevin, his face pale and sweating profusely, seemed to realize something. Listen, Kevin. You knew I was a lenient father and you've been quite reckless. I know everything. I don't know anything. I didn't. Kevin continued to feign ignorance. Are you still trying to deny everything? Losing patience, the father-in-law angrily confronted Kevin with a document. It was an internal audit report that had been secretly conducted about Kevin. It documented the facts of his embezzlement. Did you think embezzling small amounts would go unnoticed? We've been suspicious of someone inside the company and had it investigated. But I never imagined it was you. This. I was going to return it later. Do you think that kind of excuse will work? What did you use that money for? The internal audit revealed that small amounts of money had been regularly pocketed by Kevin. Realizing he could no longer evade, Kevin started deleting everything. Tracy was always dressed in luxury items, all apparently funded by Kevin. Kevin also paid for Tracy's apartment rent. Although Kevin's income was not meager, sustaining such a lifestyle for years meant his disposable income was limited. Therefore, Kevin had been embezzling amounts that he thought would not be detected immediately. But the company was not foolish. No matter how small, any discrepancy in funds would inevitably lead to an investigation. And the internal audit team uncovered Kevin as the culprit, bringing the matter to his father, the president. Betraying Emma and even squandering company money on your mistress. What were you thinking? It's not like that. I was going to return the money. Enough with your excuses. You're fired. Don't bother coming to work tomorrow. The father-in-law sternly rebuked Kevin and gestured towards the door, telling him to leave. Dad, calm down. You wouldn't really fire your own son, would you? No, I no longer consider you my son. I intend to cut off our familial ties. Wait. The affair was just for fun. I'll return the money. Please forgive me. I won't listen to your excuses. Be grateful I'm not handing you over to the police. Now get out. Driven out of the president's office, Kevin walked away in a daze, never imagining that he, an elite, would be disowned by his own father. Perhaps he thought that even if his affair was discovered, a simple apology would suffice for forgiveness. But Kevin underestimated us. Neither I nor my in-laws will ever forgive Kevin for betraying our family's trust. That was his punishment. Mom, you're on my side, right? Dad is disowning me. Thus, Kevin visited his parents' home and pleaded with his mother. He probably thought that his mother would be more likely to side with him. However, his expectation was about to be betrayed. Of course. Think about what you have done. You are certainly not allowed to come back to this house. To the begging Kevin, the mother-in-law coldly stated her stance. Surprised by her attitude, Kevin responded in anger. Why not? This is my home. I have nowhere to go since you sold the house. I'll be homeless. It seems Kevin is currently living in a hotel, but such a lifestyle will soon deplete his savings. That's probably why he thought of relying on his parents' home, but that wasn't going to happen. It was us who advised you to sell the car and that apartment. The luxury car Kevin had been driving. And the apartment he lived in was actually in his father-in-law's name. They were gifts bought when we got married. Of course, I couldn't just sell them, but the enraged father-in-law declared he would sell them. Emma is a lifesaver to me. Yet, you betrayed her. And I've heard about the embezzlement too. You've really done something foolish. I'll change my ways. The affairs weren't my fault. Tracy seduced me. I only spent the money because she wanted high-end items. Kevin continued to make excuses, to which the mother-in-law sighed heavily. It seems I really went wrong raising you. Your excuses are enough. Don't ever come over our threshold again. Please, Mom, don't abandon your own son. Don't be so heartless. Who's being heartless? I don't want to see your disgraceful face anymore. Just go away. The usually gentle mother-in-law scolded Kevin with a stern face. It appeared she was also angered by her son's actions. But, Mom. Please. No matter how much Kevin pleaded, the mother-in-law never agreed. He probably never thought his mother would abandon him. Realizing he had no allies left, Kevin dejectedly left his parents' home. Afterward, he persistently contacted me, begging for reconciliation. Please. Think it over. What's there to think over? You're already remarried to Tracy, aren't you? I've already divorced her. I need you. Oh, what a pity. Especially after I went through the trouble of filing those papers for you. After divorcing me and being fired. Penniless Kevin was quickly served with divorce papers by Tracy. You can't have forgotten about me, right? It's not too late. Give me another chance. His pleas for forgiveness were absurd, but I had no intention of reconciling with Kevin. If I was so important to you, you should have changed your ways sooner. It's too late for anything now. So what am I supposed to do now? Because of you, I've lost my job, my money, everything. Kevin showed a fit of anger, blaming me for his plight. But it was all his own doing. After all, it seems that even if he shows a wilting attitude, the fundamental personality will not change. It seems that he tried to come out and convince me. But I'm not the kind of person who can be deceived by Kevin anymore. Don't shift the blame. You'd better live with regrets. If you don't ask for too much, you can find a day job somewhere, right?
Goodbye.
Fed up with Kevin's complaints, I decisively blocked his calls. Living abroad, there was no way for him to reach me, and he had to give up. Later, through a lawyer recommended by the father-in-law, I filed for damages against both Kevin and Tracy. Kevin reluctantly accepted the terms, but Tracy showed an attitude of refusal. Why should I pay any damages? I don't have that kind of money. If you won't pay, I'll have to speak with your parents. They seem quite strict. Wait. Don't tell my parents. I had investigated beforehand and learned that Tracy's rural home was a very strict household. Despite strong opposition from her parents, she had managed to convince them to let her work in the city after graduating from college. If they learned of this matter, Tracy would likely be called back home. Then you'll pay the damages. You got me fired from the company. Life is already tough enough, I can't pay that. Not only had Kevin been fired, but Tracy too had been let go by the father-in-law. With her extravagant spending habits, paying a large amount in damages would be difficult. It's troublesome when you whine. After all, you were the one who picked a fight. It turned out that the earring found in Kevin's car and the documents in the envelope were part of Tracy's scheme to make me divorce Kevin sooner. Marrying Kevin, a corporate heir, would certainly have been hitting the jackpot. But now, with Kevin penniless, Tracy couldn't expect him to shoulder her damages. She had no choice but to pay herself. Fine. I'll figure something out. She clearly did not want to return to the countryside. Finally resigned, Tracy promised to pay the damages. Kevin had tried to raise money by selling the branded items he had given her. But it was far from enough to cover the full amount of damages. Tracy reluctantly started working at night, cutting back on sleep to make ends meet. She was mentally breaking down from juggling jobs, and even started visiting the hospital. Tracy, who had once laughed heartily when Kevin mocked me as an old lady, now looked older than her age due to stress. Disowned by his family, Kevin began visiting job centers to find work at other companies. However, when interviewers asked why he was dismissed for misconduct, his evasive answers made a bad impression, and he struggled to secure employment. He couldn't very well admit to embezzlement, and his job search continued to be difficult. Kevin, out of necessity, has started working day labor jobs that are unfamiliar to him in order to earn money for daily expenses. However, having never done physical labor before, Kevin is utterly useless and is always being scolded by his seniors. Despite how tough it is, he must work. He has no other way to support himself. Once upon a time, if he faced troubles, his parents or I would have resolved them. But now he must manage on his own. Having moved into a small, run-down apartment, Kevin is struggling with household chores and cooking that he never attempted before. This is a good lesson for someone who grew up pampered. Emma, I am truly sorry. Please forgive us. After everything was settled, the father-in-law apologized again for Kevin's affair. He went out of his way to contact me, even though I was overseas. Despite his social status, the father-in-law apologized deeply to me. Next to him, the mother-in-law also bowed, tearfully expressing her gratitude. Please, it's not your fault. Don't apologize. Over the computer screen, I hurriedly urged them to stop. It didn't feel right to have the in-laws apologize when Kevin was to blame. It might sound presumptuous, but even though you and Kevin are divorced, if you would forgive us, could we possibly continue our relationship with you? Now that you and Kevin are no longer connected, my wife and I still think of you like our own daughter. The father-in-law looked up and said this earnestly. There might have been faults on my part as well. Yet, they didn't blame me. Instead, they expressed a desire to maintain our relationship. Tears of joy streamed down my face. Oh, I would be honored to keep in touch. Despite what has happened, I don't want to lose my connection with you too. Hearing my words, both the father-in-law and mother-in-law smiled warmly. They had always treated me exceptionally well, even before the marriage. It would be too sad to end everything just because of the divorce. Therefore, their offer brought me immense joy. The good relationship with my former in-laws has continued even after the divorce. It's really a nice place here, glad we came. It's wonderful to see your face, Emma. Have you been keeping well? Months later, to my surprise, my in-laws came to visit me in the country where I now live. We sat at a cafe near my home, chatting and drinking tea peacefully. They both looked quite well, and they visited me while traveling. Since then, I have settled abroad and now work as an English language teacher. I cannot thank my in-laws enough for supporting my dream over the years. Although the pain of being betrayed by Kevin has not fully healed, I can't dwell on it forever. I've resolved to live brightly in the foreign city I've always dreamed of.